Have you ever wondered, how did this job get bid with such a huge profit margin, but then your company ended up losing money finishing it? That's because you don't have the right information coming in at the right time. If you're not familiar with me, I'm Josh Lupker. I've been in the construction industry for 10 years, focusing on operations and financial stability. I've seen hundreds of subcontracting companies thinking they are making profit, but really shaving their own paycheck, paying to finish jobs. I've seen subcontractors struggle with estimating and executing on work, but the number one reason subcontracting businesses aren't making profit is because they don't use cost codes. Look, owning a subcontracting business isn't easy. No one teaches you how to figure out how much profit there is on a project. Your CPA probably can't even tell you if you've actually made money in the past 12 months from doing your taxes. So how do you figure out if you're actually making profit or just scraping by? The good news is, now that you've found this video, I can help you fix that. Today, I'm going to break down why cost coding is crucial for construction companies, why avoiding cost coding project actually bleeds money out of your pocket, and how to understand and set up basic cost codes for any construction project. What's up, y'all? Welcome back. If you're looking for content on subcontracting, operations, and finance, hit the subscribe button and the like button below. And with that, let's get into it. I'm sure you've heard the saying, a problem well stated is a problem half solved. Cost coding is essentially stating problems while they are actually happening, so you still have time to solve them. It works like this. Say you set up a budget for a labor line item. Every week, hours and money are allocated to that line item through payroll. You can track exactly how many hours a line item is complete against the estimated hours from the estimated budget to see trends within 2 weeks of starting on a task. For example, imagine you're building a high rise. Floor 3 through 27 are exactly the same. By cost coding floors 3, 4, 5, and so on, for tasks such as concrete prep, concrete pouring, and then stripping, you can identify if your plan from floor 3 is trending more or less on budgeted cost per floor. That gives you time to adjust your plan for floor 4 and then 5, since it's all exactly the same work. You can apply this to any trade as well as material, subcontractors, equipment, and even supervision. Cost coding is basically micro accounting of a project that may go beyond a taxable year and allow you to properly track how you are trending for profit for each 3 to 4 week task. It is more work, but it's the difference between the 83% of construction companies that will fail and you exceeding your estimated profit on a project. So if it's more work, how is not cost coding projects taking money out of your business? Imagine this scenario. You have 10,000 hours to complete a 6-month project. That averages to about 3.5 people for the duration of the project. When you start, you obviously have 1 or 2 people on site. They're going to be working on things like setting up storage, trailers, attending meetings, and planning the work. But when you start the bulk of the work, you send 6 more people to site. Say they're scheduled for 3 weeks so they can finish all of the first floor underground so they can get the slab poured. During that 3-week period, your team is running into some weather issues. There's a lot of rain overnight. So every morning they are spending 2 to 3 hours for those all 8 people to run pumps and clean out ditches. That turns into 16 to 24 man hours a day wasted. That 3-week schedule really looks like it's going to take about 4.5 weeks since it's been so wet. This is where cost coding comes in. As a business owner, you may not have time to keep tabs on every project as you grow. Your team may not get the chance to tell you every problem. And typically, they think this is just the way things are and I'm going to have to work through. By cost coding and checking on financials once a week, you will see that production is maybe 10% complete, but realize that you've already spent 30% of your budgeted hours. That disparity immediately gives you a red flag. It gives you the opportunity to change your strategy to have everything backfilled every afternoon so there isn't a need to pump ditches every morning. Then you can stay on schedule. By solving that 8-day addition to the schedule with 6 people, you're saving $11,520. Had you not cost coded, you wouldn't have known that you were losing money right out of the gate. You might have looked at it as spent 1,080 hours out of 10,000, which seems like it might be in line with this stage of the project. I know the hardest part about being a subcontracting owner is realizing that's a problem and how to make a change. So, how do you know what basic cost codes to even start with? There are 5 major categories of cost code. You have labor, material, subcontractors, equipment, and other. We're going to start with labor. Labor is unique because it is a combination of hours and each employee's burdened rate. Not everyone on your team is paid the same as the way that you bid a project. They might make different money, they might take different benefits. There's so many things that go into your burdened rate. I'm a big proponent that a labor cost code should be right around 3 to 4 weeks worth of work. That could be an area of a project, a phase, a floor, a poured section, or any way the project will be broken up for the purpose of workflow. If you create cost codes with less than 3 to 4 weeks worth of labor, you're just creating too much busy work for your team to even track. You won't get the data in time to even make a change. Something to consider, most of the time, there's a lag in accounting systems. Most of the time, it's up to a week for invoices and up to 3 weeks for labor to populate the cost. It's critical to know what your lag time is and exactly what day and time your accounting system gets updated with that information to make accurate decisions. The other 4 major types of cost codes you should set up are material, subcontractors, equipment, and another category. The rule of thumb you will want to follow is break them into chunks that you want to know costs so you can update your estimating procedures for future projects, but not so small that say it's less than $10,000 of your entire budget for a year. For example, if we were going to create cost codes for a civil contractor, I would use the major categories of labor, material, subcontractors, equipment, and other. Under the labor cost code, I would have tasks like demolition, grinding, dewatering, and monitoring, and all the other areas broken up into phases if it's phased as a project. For material, I would track things like rock, sanitary structures, PVC pipe, concrete, topsoil, and you always want to have a miscellaneous cost code for anything that falls outside of those categories. Things like plywood, screws, upside down paint, you get it. You can always add cost codes if a project has a special material or a line you'd like to add for that specific project. For the subcontractor code, I would track things like surveyor, haul truck, curb and gutter, asphalt. And you always want to have a miscellaneous subcontractor code for that one off that might come up. For example, a drone subcontractor that maybe you want to monitor progress of a project during the civil stages, and the general contractor has you as the civil contractor subcontracted to them. For the equipment code, you're going to have a couple very specific ones under there. You're going to have owned equipment if you own anything, vehicles or overhead vehicles like a superintendent truck that might not be specific to one job, it might be allocated to several. Project management vehicles, you're going to want to have fuel, and you're going to want to have rented equipment. So you can see how much you're renting versus how much you're owning and how much it's all being. Lastly, you have the other cost code. This will include direct job expenses such as permits, office supplies, bonds, paper plans, cell phones, and so many other things. This one you can easily get carried away with, so keep it to 15 to 20 until you dial it in. When you get all of the cost codes set up, you have to assign someone extremely detailed to track every invoice, every hour, and the cost to the right cost code, or you won't have usable data. That saying, garbage in, garbage out, that applies to this. After just a few projects using this strategy, you'll start to notice trends, like areas where you tend to overestimate and areas you tend to underestimate, but the projects have always been balancing out without you being aware. When you master these cost codes, you'll double or even triple your average profit margin on a project just from identifying problems sooner. Most profit just gets lost from being unaware, and if it gets to be too much, it comes straight off the bottom line where you end up paying for a project in some part. Wouldn't you like to know what you're trending towards so you have time to fix it instead of realizing it at 80% completion? Remember, the only reason you started your business was to have financial freedom and less stress working for someone else. So stop the cycle and go thrive.